Welcome back, Buffs. We are still kind of a little bit euphoric from that win against CSU. And this may be ill timing for this, but we're already into Monday and we've got a game on Saturday. And so when we're looking at this right now, I'm looking at this video as a we need to get ready for the big games that are coming later in the season. Obviously, we want a Big 12 championship, and obviously, no one is picking us in the Big 12 championship or to even go to the Big 12 championship for that matter. And the year hasn't even really gotten started. We lost to Nebraska. That was a tough loss, but we're 2-1, and there's no reason to think that we can't actually compete at a high level. We have made remarkable changes, remarkable play increases, remarkable just everything in the past 2 weeks, past 3 weeks to give us hope. Now, here's kind of where this video, I want to go with this video is. I understand that we won, and I don't want to be like, what if, or we need to change things. We won. I get it. Even Coach Prime says a win is a win. It doesn't really matter how you do it. And that balance isn't the key factor in this, but I'm thinking when we get a little bit later in the season, I think it's going to matter a little bit more than it does now. And I would like us to be competitive in that atmosphere. So I chose 3 things that we need to fix, and I put must fixes before we actually get into the core bit of the season. Now, does this mean we need to fix them before Baylor? Probably not, but I don't see any reason why we wouldn't fix them. Or I guess these are mainly not even fixes. They're more enhancements than fixes, meaning we made a big change. We rounded the corner a little bit there. And hey, La Rosa, how are you doing? We made some changes and we rounded the corner this last game. And I think all of us were just super excited. The run finally got established. We evened out in our time of possession, and there were a lot of other things. Travis got 100 yards. Shadur looked really good. He got his 300 yards. We beat the pants off of CSU, and we stuffed their faces in the dirt. And the memes that are going around right now, it's a shame that we don't have a bye this week where we could actually continue to run CSU memes for another week, but we got to get on to Baylor. So I've chosen this time to be nitpicky and do something that I wanted to do, which is pick out 3 things that I think we need to enhance for this upcoming game against Baylor, or even maybe enhance as we go into the season a little bit more. The first one is the rush. So yes, I know we had the rush. The rush is good in this last game. We ran for 109 yards, which is excellent. And then every single one of our backs ran for better than 5 yards. We couldn't have asked for more. I mean, if we were to scripted, I put a chalkboard on the thumbnail. If we had a chalkboard back here and we were going to write down exactly what the best things about that game were, 5+ yards per carry. We had multiple running backs doing that. We had 3 running backs that averaged 5 or more, and that's all the 3 running backs that ran. We ran for more than 100 yards, and that's great. Okay. And so when you're looking at the rush, we didn't have Dallin Hayden, and we were really upset that we didn't have Dallin Hayden. And yet we still did great, right? So how could the rush be better? How could the rush be better? I'm going to tell you how the rush could be better. We ran 19 times, really ran 18 times because Shadur slid on one and he got kind of a self sack. But let's just say 19 runs. In the pregame show on the before we played CSU, and actually against Nebraska, and actually every game before that, I've stated that we need to run it 30+ times. And the reason why I say that is because I did an analysis, disregarding every bit of football that I know from the last 30 years. I did an analysis of last year's teams and the ones that went to the playoffs. And then I also took the top 5 teams in the country. So I took both of those and I broke it apart. And there was only one outlier in that when it came to rushing the ball, and that was Washington. Washington rushed the ball the least amount of all those teams. They rushed for an average of 118 yards, which is still more than we rushed against CSU, right? But everybody else was better than 170. Okay. And they also rushed for better than 30 plus times per carry. I'm sorry, 30 plus times per game. And that was everybody that was in the playoffs and the top 5 in last year's CFP. So you can't deny that kind of stats. You really can't. And the reason why it is important to rush 30 plus times is, for a lot of things, is to slow down the clock, to get the time of possession in your side. Now that goes into something that I'm going to talk about later, but we have the running backs this year. Last year, I thought we had good running backs. This year, we certainly have great running backs, and we haven't even seen all of them yet. And I understand that we have Shedeur, and I understand that Shedeur is our game plan, and I don't deny that. And I also don't deny that he is the best quarterback in college football. But when we're talking about winning games versus just using your best tool, we have a lot of great tools. Our wide receiver group is undeniably great. But there's 2 other sections of our offense that need to be established a little bit more. So 30 rushes per game. We need to get 150 yards per game here on out. I'm telling you right now, if we don't get 150 yards here on out, we're going to start losing games. Our whole goal at this point is to win the Big 12 championship. That's Coach Prime's goal. It isn't to win, to go to a bowl. You know, I like hearing that, go to a bowl for Peggy, and I want to go to a bowl for Peggy, and everybody wants to go to a bowl. But we're not even at that point yet. We're not at the point where we have to just like say, okay, so we've already lost 3 games. At least if we win 6, we can go to a bowl. We've only lost 1 game. So we are still eligible to win the Big 12 championship. We have not lost 1 conference game. So why lay down just on a bowl? Let's go for the Big 12 championship. And the way we do that is for balance. Now let's do this. We have 0 rushing TDs this year. Is that important, rushing versus pass? Probably not. I would like to see somebody get a rushing touchdown in this next game. And then even more than that is, let's look at Brandon Hood. So we have seen everybody in gameplay except for Brandon Hood in significant gameplay. And I think he is the one that we really need to look at. Now, Dallin Hayden, I'm not sure right now. I think it looks like he is possible for this game coming up against Baylor, but I think we'll know a lot more as we get into maybe Wednesday or Thursday. But regardless, I'd love to see Brandon Hood out there so we can see what he can do. We already established Michael Welch as a baller. We know that he can run, and we know that we can depend on him. Also, Isaiah ran extremely well as well. He ran for 5.2 yards per carry. He was stuffed on a few runs, but again, same as we talked about Charlie in the Nebraska game, if the blocking isn't there, the blocking isn't there. And in that case, when you're looking at Isaiah's runs, and I'll break those down a little bit more in another video, but he was stuffed on a couple of them, not due to himself, but just the fact that the run just didn't get established in that case. But still, 5.2 rushes, 5.2 yards per carry. No one is going to sniff at that. That's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. The fact that we're talking about that as being the lowest amount of yards per carry of all of our running backs means our running game looked good, right? So we're good there. So that's number 1. I'm not going to go any further in that because I've beat a dead horse, and I beat it in every video. The second one is, the second thing to fix is more tight end play. Now, this is probably going to get me a lot of comments, and I want it. I want the comments. So put them down below. Let me know what you think about this. I know we have studs in receivers, but there is something about having a tight end in the set that really plays with a defense, which is the exact reason why really good teams, in fact, the top teams in the country, have solid tight end play, and the best NFL teams have solid tight end play. And the reason why is because it eliminates one person from the defense for covering, because you're going to initially be blocking, right? Unless the defense is privy to this. And we have the option at that point to use some of our really good tight ends, and I think, to me, they're all really good, as a weapon in a dig or something like that across the front, just to get some quick yards, 5-6 yards to a tight end, and they're big. And right now we've seen poor tackling, like CSU had very poor tackling in the game. So I don't think Baylor's probably going to be much better in the tackling game. So having big tight ends catching the ball, I think could be a big deal for us. So if you look at that, Smalls in this last game, Smalls had 1 reception for 13 yards and Hart had 1 reception for 2 yards. So we already have those two. Smalls is a 5-star athlete. Started out on defense at Washington, but 5 stars is 5 stars. It means he was a very good athlete, right? Hart went to OSU, right? He came from OSU, and OSU drafted him, or not drafted him. They recruited him because he's a great tight end. We've already seen that he can catch the ball. We already know he can block. So we need to trust him with the ability to do this. So that's 2 out of 2 so far, right? What about Morgan Pearson? Do you know anything about Morgan Pearson? So Morgan Pearson also started out on defense for us as an edge, linebacker / edge. He was the number 6 player in Oklahoma in his class. So if you don't know what Oklahoma football means, I can tell you what Oklahoma football means. Oklahoma and Texas are synonymous with each other in football. And, their stadiums are bigger than CSU stadiums in some cases, and they take football very seriously. So to be the number 6 player in a state like Oklahoma or Texas is a really big deal. And this is not number 6 at his position. This is the number 6 overall player in Oklahoma in Morgan Pearson. And he was moved to tight end, and they think a lot of him. I think a lot of him, and I think he could be really good for us. And in one quick set, I think it was the first series of last week's game, I think we saw all 3 tight ends in one set. I think we were running a 13 formation there, or a 13 personnel there. And I haven't gone back and looked at that one specific play yet, but I got really excited. We didn't see it again, but that could be something that we could exploit. And I want to remind everybody that last year, when we used the tight end in the first 3 games, what happened in the first 3 games last year? We won all 3 games, and Michael Harrison was a very big factor in that. And Michael Harrison was not a real tight end, but we still used him as a tight end, and that's what made him good, was the fact that he was put in tight end. If he was put in receiver, he might not have had the same skill. He might not have had the same success. It was the fact that we had him at that position, which made the big difference. So I'm going to say number 2 point for Baylor is more tight end play. We need to see the tight end play. 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel. Let's get them in there. Let's run this thing. Now, my last one is time of possession. So I've been screaming this since last year, and I think all of you have too. It's hard to win games when the other team has the ball for 10 to 17 minutes longer than we do, which has been the case. Even into last year, that's been the case. And this last game against CSU, it was a dead even split. So we were 30 minutes and 7 seconds. CSU was 29 minutes and 53 seconds. So literally there was like 14 seconds difference between the two. That was a big factor for us. Now, that said, we probably could have been in 32 minutes had we, at the end of the game, not thrown the ball around so much and maybe sat on the ball a little bit more, rushed the ball. But I will kind of regress back into what I said earlier, is when you're up that much and you have your players at stake and they have some personal goals that they want to hit and we can help them hit them and it doesn't hurt the team, then why not do it? But in a game where, for instance, in that first game against NDSU, that would have not been the game to do it. And in any game where we're closer than a single score or even 2 scores, I would say that's not the game to do it. We need to learn time of possession is a big deal. Against CSU, they had 1 more series than we did. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not. But I think we had 11 series and they had 12 series. So they had the ball 1 more series than we did. And it was that last series. And in a game that's really tight, that one last series could mean a lot. If we had run the clock out, let's say, they wouldn't have got that last series. That means they don't have the opportunity to score unless it's on defense. And that's a big deal to us. So time of possession. Now, we need to practice it. Even though we're ahead in games, even though we know, that, even if we lose the ball and they score, we're not going to lose. We need to practice it because we've shown that when we don't practice the run game, we suck at the run game. And when we don't practice the time of possession game, we suck at the time of possession game. So we need to practice that. It needs to happen in game, real game time, real game time play. And that's all I have to say about that. So those are the three things. So we need to rush the ball 30 plus times for 150 yards per game. And this is absolutely doable. At over 5 yards an average carry, we can absolutely do this. We're going to replace some receiving yards with rushing yards, and that might be a point of contention with the team. But when it comes down to solidifying wins, I think this is an important piece. The second one is get the tight ends involved. We have really good tight ends. We need to see what they can do. And I think that would also help basically one line our offense to opposing defenses. And then the last one, we need to practice time of possession. We need to learn how to sit on the ball a little bit and slow down the plays so that we don't give the ball back to the opposing team and give them an opportunity. So what do you guys have to say here? I'm going to go right back to the top here and look at these. So La Rosa says, I really love your knowledge. Thank you very much, La Rosa. Jim says, a little more running. It will only help with the pass. We got to see a little bit on Saturday. I would like to see Shedeur under center a little bit. Me too. Shedeur under center would be really exciting. I don't know that we're ever actually going to see that, but I know he can do it, and he may or may not need to do that in the NFL, depending on what team he's with. But I think showing his versatility at this point, there's some volatility if you watch the prognosticators out there trying to determine who's going to go first, who's the number one quarterback. I still think Travis is going to go first. If he continues on the season he's at right now, there is no doubt he's going to win the Heisman and go first in the draft. But as far as Shedeur is concerned, being the first quarterback, there's a lot of contention in there and a lot of competition in there. And the more he can show he can manage the offense instead of just throw the ball, I think his stock will, I say rise. It's already at the highest, I think it's very high. But to overtake some of these other quarterbacks that he's going against, he needs to show his versatility. So no matter what team he goes to, he can be versatile in their offense, depending on who the offensive coordinator and the coach is. And being under center, showing that you can be under center, showing that you can manage the game in time of possession, showing that you can help establish the run. Those are all very important things. Jim says, agree with the 30 plus runs. Thank you very much, Jim. I think that, like I said, that little bit of research I did, and I posted it in a video last year of those top 5 teams, and also the top teams that went to the playoffs. Only one team did not have a heavier run to pass ratio, and that was Washington. They made it to the national championship, but they lost. And they lost to a team that had an overwhelming, I think it was like a 63% in Michigan run to pass rate. And I'm not expecting that. In fact, I don't want that with Shedeur. But having at least 30, that would be a 30-30. That'd be a 50-50 split. I think that would be good. First named after one. They were great when used, and I think he's meaning the tight ends, and I agree. Every time a tight end has touched it this year, they've done good things. Every time a tight end touched it last year, they did great things. In fact, we won CSU with Michael Harrison in double overtime, single overtime, scoring a touchdown, pushing it into double overtime, scoring a touchdown, 2 Michael Harrison touchdowns in the post game, essentially. And if it wasn't for him, and if it wasn't for those plays, we may have lost that game. So I want to remind everybody of that. I'm just happy to see you finally made a change at running back position, 44 to 29 and 23, legit talent. I agree. We need to run all of them. We need to show everybody. Brandon Hood needs to get in there. We need to see him too. Brian C. is here. The pink hand emoji. Tim Tafoya, love your show. Couldn't agree more with your 3 points. Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I want to, say that I think these aren't things that obviously I came up with on my own. You guys tell me this. I hear it all over the place. I mean, one of the things that I think good college teams do, and this is going to be a little bit of an oxymoron, is good college teams listen to their fan base. Now, that's funny because when I coached, it was funny because I coached youth league, and one of the things you don't want to do is listen to the parents a whole lot, because the parents always want their children to get the ball. They want their children to be, starters and things like that. So I'm kind of swallowing my own words, but at the same time, you have, 50 to 70,000 people who are passionate about the game and who really want to see the team do their best. And of that 70,000, probably 25% of that 70,000 are avid college football fans. And a good portion of those are older football fans who've seen decades and decades of football and seen positives and negatives. They've seen things like the wishbone come and go because defenses figured it out. They saw the air raid offense come and go because defenses figured it out. And we scream those things, right? We scream those things because we've seen those. And we know that history is doomed to repeat itself when we start to go down those roads. And so having the team listen to the fans is an important thing. In this particular show, for us to even think that they're listening to us is important. And I know they're not, which is fine because they are very smart people and we are not smarter than they are. The real question is, Brian says the real question, what does going into a center do for the running game? Is it that different from what they're doing in pistol? No, it's not. I actually like pistol, and I don't mind running out of the shotgun. So I want to make sure that we get that straight. I don't mind running out of shotgun. What I do mind is an RPO out of shotgun on 4th down and 1. That's what I mind. So if you watch that videos a couple of videos ago, I was talking about Charlie and the fact that he was 4 for 4 yards and everybody was somewhat losing their minds over this. And I wanted to remind everybody that it has to do with the way that we're lining everything up. And when you're doing an RPO on 4th and 1, meaning that the quarterback can either choose to run the ball, choose to hand off the ball to the running back, or throw the ball in the shotgun with the box stacked, okay, because they think we're running it. At that point, when you're in shotgun, you're making that running back who only wants to run 2 or 3 yards to get a first down to run 6 or 7 yards on a delay because the quarterback needs to figure out if he wants to throw it. That's what I'm against. Running out of pistol on a designed run, I'm for. Running out of shotgun, just a plain shotgun, in a designed run, I'm for. Running out of an RPO in a shotgun, if it's a quick one and, it's, first or second down or even 3rd down and short, I'm fine with. Under center, handing it off, I'm fine with. It's that one scenario. It's that RPO on 4th and 1 where the quarterback stalls. That's the problem that I had. But so Brian says the real question is, what does that do? So when you're under center and you're handing off the ball, it's a much quicker exchange. The problem is, and that gives the defense less time to close a hole, which is important. The problem is that the offensive line has to understand the blocking, has to be able to execute the blocking. The running back needs to know where the hole is going to develop, and there needs to be a trust relationship there, or the running back just keeps running into a giant butt. And so that's the problem with running with a quarterback under center, is that the positive is that it's a much faster developing play. So the running back, if they can hit the hole and the hole's developed right, can be 4 yards into the backfield before the linebackers even know where the hole was. But you have to have the blocking there or it means nothing. Let's see. And then Byron says, well said. I appreciate that, guys. So I'm going to keep this probably just to about 25 minutes because I didn't want to make this a super long live. But I wanted to get these out there because we're moving on to Baylor tomorrow. I'm going to bring you my points on Baylor. We're going to talk about it. We're going to show some game footage of Baylor. They're better than they look. They're better than you think they may be. They've got the same record as us. They really haven't played a lot of skilled opponents, but then again, neither have we other than Nebraska. So I'm not going to say this is a toss-up game because it's not. I still think that we can beat Baylor handily, but we do need to get some things right before this game. And then, man, that dirty Baylor coach came out and said nice things about our team. And, You know what that does, man. I kind of like the whole CSU fired up mentality. And now we're going into the same thing we went into Nebraska, where Rule was just super nice to us, and he was all, Shadur's the greatest thing ever, and we respect him a great deal and stuff like that. And then we lost to Nebraska, and now Baylor's taking a page out of that same playbook, and they're saying all kinds of nice things about us. We need to get fired up, and we need to figure out a way to do it. We need to figure out a way to do it. If anybody finds something, post it on social media, and let's get fired up. That's a wrap from Alpine Garage Sports. I'll be back tomorrow with a kind of the story of Baylor and how we're going to beat them, and I will see you in the next video.